My name is Lena Markley, and I've always been the kind of daughter who shows up early, stays late, and somehow ends up doing the dishes even when I didn't eat the dessert that dirted them. If responsibility were a sport, I'd have a trophy shelf. If guilt were a currency, my parents would be billionaires. But the real story, the one that starts everything, began 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. It was a Sunday, the kind that pretends to be peaceful. Cold air, quiet street, a pot of coffee humming like background music. I had just sat down on my couch with a blanket around my legs when my phone buzzed with a family group call. Not a text, a call. That alone should have been a warning. Mom's voice came through first, brittle like glass pretending to be strong. "Lena, honey, we need to talk." Dad cleared his throat behind her, a habit he has right before saying something that will conveniently become my fault. My younger brother, Evan, stayed silent, which meant he knew. And if Evan knew, it wasn't good. I forced my voice steady. "Okay, what's going on?" Mom exhaled dramatically, like I had already disappointed her. "Your Aunt Melissa invited her new fiancé to Thanksgiving. And your sister," she paused for effect, "has decided she wants to host it this year." Right. Mia, the golden child. The daughter who could set a table on fire and my parents would compliment the warmth. "That's fine," I said, even though I knew it wasn't. Dad's voice cut in, sharp and firm. "She asked you for something reasonable, Lena, and you embarrassed her." My stomach tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." Mom clicked her tongue. "Lena, don't play dumb. She asked you to apologize." "For what exactly?" "Evan muttered, you know. But I genuinely didn't." Then Mia's voice burst through the background, loud and theatrical. "For ruining my dinner party." I shut my eyes. Here we go. Let me back up. 2 nights earlier, Mia had hosted a little pre-holiday gathering that was supposed to be adults sipping wine and talking about gratitude. But halfway through, she announced to everyone that she had applied for a new credit card in my name because her limit was too low for holiday shopping. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't even caused a scene. I had simply said very calmly, "Cancel it. Now." Apparently, that was enough to make me the villain. Now, on the call, Mia sniffed dramatically. "You humiliated me, Lena. You made me look irresponsible in front of my friends." "You applied for a card in my name," I said, "without asking." Mom jumped in like she'd been practicing the line in a mirror. "Family helps each other. You should have handled it privately." Dad added, "Apologize and we'll move on." And then the line that shifted something in me, something old and tired and exhausted from years of swallowing things whole. Mom said, "Until you apologize, you're not welcome at Thanksgiving." The blanket on my legs suddenly felt too heavy. I kept my voice low, steady. "So, you want me to apologize because Mia committed fraud, and I didn't clap?" Silence. Evan finally spoke, soft but cutting. "Just say sorry, Lena. It's Thanksgiving." Ah, there it was. The family motto. Keep the peace, even if it costs you your dignity. I inhaled slowly. "No," I said. "I'm not apologizing." Mom gasped. Dad muttered something about attitude. Mia swore under her breath. Evan hung up. The call ended with a cold click. I stared at my quiet apartment, my chest thudding, my hand shaking. Not from fear, but from something unfamiliar. A boundary. A word I'd never used for myself. The silence after that call was the kind that isn't really quiet. It vibrates like something in the room has shifted out of place. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the black screen of my phone, feeling like someone had unplugged a cord inside my chest. Thanksgiving, my favorite holiday, or the one I used to love. Growing up, it was the one day my family pretended we were normal. Mom would bake pies that weren't hers, store-bought crust, homemade guilt. Dad carved the turkey like he was performing a sacred ritual. Mia hovered like royalty. Evan ate like he hadn't been fed in months. And me? I floated around the kitchen, refilling glasses, catching boiling pots, catching falling tempers, being useful. Useful daughters are loved. That's what I learned early. But now, apparently, useful wasn't enough. I had committed the ultimate sin, saying no. The next morning, I woke up with a tight knot behind my ribs, like my body remembered the fight before my mind could. I made coffee extra strong and stood by the window, watching a thin drizzle trickle down the glass. The world looked gray and washed out, like a watercolor painting someone forgot to finish. My phone buzzed on the counter. A new message in the family group chat titled, "Thanksgiving planning turkey sparkles." Mia's idea, of course. Mom, Lena, reflect on last night. Dad, we expect better from you. Mia, I deserve an apology. Evan, don't ruin the holiday. And then the final blow. Mom, until you apologize, don't come. It's for the best. For the best. That phrase tasted metallic, like a door locking softly while you're still inside. I didn't reply. Instead, I got dressed and left my apartment because if I stayed there any longer, the walls would start feeling like company. I ended up at a small cafe near my office, the one with mismatched mugs and a chalkboard menu that always had at least one spelling mistake. I liked it because it didn't ask anything from me. As I took a seat, someone slid into the chair across from me. Riley, my coworker, my almost friend, the person who had once told me, "You apologize too much," and meant it kindly. She tilted her head. "You look like someone canceled your birthday." I tried to smile, but it came out crooked. Close enough. She raised an eyebrow. "Parents or siblings?" "Both," I said, like a coordinated attack. She didn't laugh, not right away. She studied me for a moment, the way you look at a puzzle that has too many edge pieces. "What did they do?" she asked softly. I hesitated, not because I didn't trust her, but because explaining my family always felt like explaining a maze I had been walking my entire life. How do you summarize years of being the reliable one, the fixer, the helper, until the one day you stop and suddenly you're the enemy? So I told her the short version. When I finished, she leaned back slowly. "They banned you because you didn't apologize for someone else committing fraud." "Yeah," I whispered, suddenly embarrassed. "It sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud." "No," she said firmly. "It sounds familiar." That surprised me. But before I could ask what she meant, she slid a napkin toward me. It had 4 words on it, words written in quick, messy ink. "You don't owe them." My throat tightened. She pushed her coffee toward me like a peace offering. Families like that don't want apologies. They want obedience. I stared at her, and for the first time, something heavy inside me cracked. Not broken, released. We talked for almost an hour before she had to leave for a meeting. When I finally stepped outside, the drizzle had turned into a cold wind that slapped against my cheeks. But the air felt clearer. I wasn't forgiven. I wasn't accepted. I wasn't invited. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid. By Tuesday, the situation had escalated in that predictable, exhausting way my family specialized in. Manipulation disguised as tradition. Guilt disguised as concern. Silence disguised as punishment. At 9:14 a.m., I received the first voicemail from Mom. "Lena, sweetheart, we never raised you to be disrespectful. Your sister just wants harmony for Thanksgiving." Translation: your discomfort doesn't matter. Her embarrassment does. At 9:30, Dad left 1-2. "We're not taking sides, but your sister's feelings are valid. Just say sorry and let's move on." Translation: we are absolutely taking sides, just not yours. By noon, 3 more messages had arrived. I didn't listen to the rest. Instead, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and focused on work. I buried myself in spreadsheets and emails until numbers blurred into each other and my eyes burned. But every so often, I'd catch myself staring at the corner of my screen where notifications gathered like ghosts. It wasn't the ban that hurt. It was how easy it had been for them. How quickly they'd shut the door on me the second I refused to play my assigned role. By the time I drove home, my chest felt like it had been scraped hollow. My apartment greeted me with its usual quiet, a stack of mail, my half-dead plant leaning stubbornly toward the window, the hum of the refrigerator trying its best. I tossed my keys on the table and sank onto the couch. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, not from fear, but from the slow realization that this wasn't new. This was the pattern. This had always been the pattern. The only thing new was me saying no. Just as I started to breathe again, the doorbell rang. I almost ignored it, but something made me get up. When I opened the door, Evan stood there, hands in pockets, jaw clenched, eyes refusing to meet mine. My heart sank. "What are you doing here?" He shrugged, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Mom sent me." Of course she did. He paced my living room like he was rehearsing a speech he didn't want to give. "They're upset, Lena." "I know," I said. "They told me." He huffed. "You could have handled it better. By letting Mia steal my identity." "It wasn't stealing." I laughed, sharp and humorless. "She used my information without asking. What would you call it?" He didn't answer. Instead, he sank into the armchair and rubbed his temples. "Look, you know how Mom gets. You know how Dad gets. Just apologize. It doesn't have to mean anything." "That's the problem," I whispered. "It does mean something. It means pretending things are normal when they're not." He groaned. "Lena." "No," I cut in. "I'm not apologizing for protecting myself." A long silence stretched between us. Finally, Evan looked up, his voice quieter. "They really will ban you, you know. They're serious this time." I swallowed the ache rising in my throat. "Then let them." This time he actually looked startled, like the idea of me choosing myself was something he'd never considered possible. He stood up. "Fine, but when they say you weren't there for the family, don't blame me." I stared at him. "That's unfair," I said. He shrugged again. "Maybe, but that's how it'll sound." And with that he walked out, like dropping a bomb and refusing to look at the damage. The door clicked shut. My apartment felt colder than before. I sat on the couch again, pulling my knees to my chest. For a moment, the fear tried to return, the old fear of losing my place in a family that only loved me when I was useful. But underneath it, something steadier was forming. Not anger, not bitterness, just clarity. If being in the family required apologizing for something I didn't do, then maybe I didn't want to belong on those terms. I wrapped my blanket around my shoulders and whispered to the empty room, "I'm done being sorry." And for the first time, the room didn't echo back guilt. It echoed back relief. Thanksgiving week always brought a certain electricity to town. Grocery carts overflowing, people pretending patience in parking lots, windows glowing with early decorations. But that year, everything felt sharper, colder, like the holiday spirit had decided to skip my street. By Wednesday morning, my phone was clogged with messages I still hadn't opened. 19 missed calls, 31 unread texts, 8 voicemails. Most were from Mom and Mia, a few from Dad. Evan, to his credit, only sent one. "They're not backing down." Of course they weren't. They never did, not when it came to Mia. I sat at my kitchen table with a mug of tea cupped between my hands, letting the warmth seep into my palms, grounding me. The apartment was still, except for the faint hum of the heater and the soft ticks of the clock on the wall. Each second a reminder that Thanksgiving was creeping closer. I had always imagined the holiday without me would feel like punishment, but strangely it felt like oxygen. I opened my laptop, intending to distract myself with work. But the moment the screen lit up, a new email notification popped in. Subject line bold and urgent. "Important, Lena." From Mom. A sigh escaped my chest before I even clicked it. The message was short, clipped, painfully familiar. "Lena, your behavior has been very disappointing. Your sister is hosting 30 guests tomorrow. She doesn't need this added stress. If you care about this family at all, You will apologize and show up like a mature adult. We will not tolerate division. Make it right, Mom." I stared at the screen, waiting for guilt to rise. It didn't. Instead, something inside me twisted with a bitter sort of amusement. The email read like a workplace memo, a disciplinary note, a reprimand for insubordination. Not a mother speaking to her daughter. A part of me whispered, "This is why you never felt chosen." Only assigned. Before I could close the laptop, another ding. A message from Mia. "Don't make tomorrow about you. Please don't embarrass us. You already caused enough drama." Drama. The word stung, even though it shouldn't have. Setting a boundary wasn't drama. Calling out wrongdoing wasn't drama. But in my family, anything that disrupted the illusion definitely was. I slammed the laptop shut and leaned back in my chair, letting the quiet settle again. A soft knock pulled me from my spiraling thoughts. When I opened the door, Riley stood there holding 2 paper bags and wearing a scarf wrapped 3 times around her neck. "I brought carbs," she announced, "because you look like someone who hasn't eaten anything that wasn't emotionally charged in 3 days." I blinked. "You didn't have to come." "I know," she said lightly, brushing past me into the apartment, "which is why I did." She unpacked 2 steaming containers, soup and garlic bread, and pushed one toward me. "Eat, then talk." So I did. Between bites, the words spilled out. Mom's email. Dad's silence, Mia's entitlement, the ban. Riley listened like someone who had taken notes on my soul. When I finished, she leaned back with a slow exhale. "They're punishing you for having a backbone." I swallowed hard. I keep thinking maybe I should apologize, just to avoid all this. "Yeah," she said. "You could." I looked up sharply. She held my gaze. "You could apologize. And then what? They do it again. And again. And again." She pressed a hand to her chest. "And one day, you won't even notice that you disappear a little more each time." Her words hit something deep. Something painfully familiar. She continued, "Lena, I think this is the first time you've stood up for yourself. And that's why it feels like a storm. But storms pass. Losing yourself doesn't." I felt tears prick my eyes, unwanted and hot. Riley reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You don't owe them a performance, just because it's a holiday." I let out a shaky breath. For the first time in days, the knot in my chest loosened. Maybe I wasn't wrong. Maybe I wasn't selfish. Maybe I was just finally choosing myself. And maybe, just maybe, Thanksgiving could be more than a table I wasn't welcome at. It could be the first holiday where I was free. Thanksgiving morning arrived with a low, rolling gray sky, heavy enough to feel like weather was matching the weight in my chest. I woke up before my alarm, the kind of early that comes from a mind too full to rest. My apartment was unnervingly quiet. No clatter from Mom's kitchen. No bickering from Mia. No football blaring from Dad's TV. Just silence. And strangely, it didn't feel lonely. It felt honest. I showered, pulled on a soft sweater, and made myself breakfast. Not a rushed piece of toast eaten while fixing someone else's crisis, but actual food. Warm eggs. Toast with butter. Coffee that didn't taste like urgency. Halfway through eating, my phone lit up again. 12 new messages. I didn't touch it, but they flashed across the screen. "Mom, it's not too late to do the right thing." "Dad, your sister is crying. Look what you've caused." "Mia, Lena, please, don't ruin today." "Evan, just apologize and come." "It's not complicated. Not complicated." I laughed, quiet, disbelieving. The irony was almost comedic. I carried my plate to the sink when the phone rang again. I let it buzz. It stopped. Buzzed again. Stopped. On the 4th attempt, annoyance gave way to curiosity. It was Mom. I picked up. Her voice burst through the speaker, sharp and trembling. "Lena, where are you?" I blinked. "Home." "You're not on your way?" "No." Silence, dangerous silence, followed. Mom inhaled slowly. I'm asking you one last time. Apologize to your sister and come to Thanksgiving like a member of this family. My jaw tightened. I didn't do anything wrong. You humiliated her. I set a boundary. You made her feel unsafe. I couldn't help it. My laughter slipped out, short and bitter. Unsafe? Because I told her not to use my identity. Mom's tone hardened instantly. I don't like this version of you, Lena. There it was. The line they always used when I stopped being convenient. You mean the version of me that doesn't let people walk all over her? I asked. Mom didn't answer. She didn't have to. She switched tactics instead. Your absence is embarrassing us. I'm not responsible for your embarrassment. Oh, so you're completely fine hurting your family? No, I whispered. I'm just done hurting myself for you. Her breath caught, like she hadn't expected me to say it out loud. Then she delivered the final blow. Fine. Don't bother coming back. We'll celebrate without you. And she hung up, just like that. I stood there for a long moment, phone in hand, staring at nothing. The ban was official. The door was closed. The guilt was supposed to crush me, but it didn't. In fact, something in my chest felt lighter, untangled, like a rope had been cut loose. A soft knock interrupted the moment. When I opened the door, Riley stood there holding a grocery bag and wearing a warm smile. You didn't think I was going to let you spend Thanksgiving alone, did you? My throat tightened. You didn't have to. I know, she said, stepping inside, which is exactly why I'm here. She set the bag on the counter and unpacked it, stuffing mixed potatoes, 2 little pies, and a jar of cranberry sauce. I'm calling it Emergency Thanksgiving, she announced. I laughed, a real laugh for the first time all week. We cooked together, filling the apartment with smells that somehow felt more like home than any Thanksgiving I'd ever been part of. We ate at my tiny table. We talked about childhood, boundaries, holidays gone wrong, and family lessons learned too late. At one point, she looked at me, her expression soft but fierce. You know, choosing yourself is still choosing family, she said. Just a different one. I blinked hard, fighting tears. Thank you. For what? For seeing me. She smiled. You're easy to see, Lena. You've just been standing behind everyone else your whole life. And there, with my mug of hot cider warming my hands, and someone finally treating me like I mattered, I realized something. I hadn't lost a family. I had lost a cage. And maybe Thanksgiving wasn't ruined at all. Maybe it was the first one where I was finally free. Later that evening, after the dishes were washed and the leftover pie was tucked safely into my fridge, Riley left with a quick hug and a promise to text me when she got home. The moment the door closed behind her, my apartment fell into a soft, peaceful quiet. Not the heavy, suffocating quiet from before, but a warm one, like a blanket instead of a weight. I stood there for a while, letting the silence settle around me. Thanksgiving, a holiday I'd always associated with obligation, tension, and pretending everything was fine. But this year it felt like a reset button. My phone lay on the counter, dark, silent. No more buzzing. I guess word had finally spread that I wasn't coming. Not this year. Maybe not ever again. I picked it up anyway, not to check messages, but to scroll through my photos. Old Thanksgiving pictures appeared. Me serving food, me cleaning counters, me holding coats, me doing everything except enjoying the day. In every photo, I looked like part of the decor, not part of the celebration. Always positioned behind Mia's spotlight. It hit me then how long I had been shrinking myself to fit their expectations. How long I had been earning love that should have been freely given. My throat tightened, but it wasn't sadness. It was recognition. I set the phone down and walked toward my window. Outside, lights glimmered in apartment buildings across the street. Tiny flickers of other people's holidays unfolding. Some loud, some quiet, some perfect, some broken, but all of them honest. I wrapped my arms around myself and whispered, "You did it." Not bravely, not triumphantly, just truthfully. A soft buzz startled me. One message. From an unexpected name. Evan. For a second, I debated ignoring it, but something in my chest nudged me to open it. You were right. About everything. I'm sorry. I blinked, reading it twice. Then again. His next message came quickly. Mia told everyone you ruined the holiday. But she also admitted she used your info before you knew. Mom defended her. Dad avoided it. I didn't. I told them they were wrong. I sank onto the couch, overwhelmed. Another message. They won't admit it, but they know they messed up. I just wanted you to know I'm on your side now. My breath trembled. I typed slowly. Thank you. I needed that. He replied, Have your own Thanksgiving. Make it your way. You deserve that. A softness spread through me, warm and unexpected. For the first time in years, someone from my family saw me, not as the fixer or the convenient daughter, but as a person. But even then, even with his apology, I knew something had shifted permanently. Evan's message didn't change the past. It didn't fix the years of imbalance, but it did something quietly powerful. It proved I wasn't crazy for choosing myself. I locked my phone and set it aside. As the night deepened, I lit a candle on my table. The soft flame flickered, casting gentle shadows on my walls. Shadows that looked less like ghosts and more like whispers of old versions of me finally dispersing. I sat down with a warm blanket and a half-eaten slice of pie and allowed myself to simply exist. No demands, no guilt, no apologies, just Lena, my Lena, somewhere between the candle flicker and the quiet temperature of the room. Something inside me settled into place with a quiet finality. I didn't lose my family today. I unlearned them, and unlearning is a kind of freedom. I leaned back, eyes soft, heart steady, and whispered into the quiet. This is my Thanksgiving. For the first time in my life, it finally felt true.